Okay guys, so this is the third time I've recorded this tutorial now, because every time I do it something goes wrong. First time it was the wrong format, second time I cropped it so you could only see half the screen, which is useless because how are you supposed to follow a tutorial when you can't see what I'm doing? So this is the third time I'm editing this picture. So I'm going to take this one because it's really cute, or at least it was the first time I edited it, and now I'm getting sick of it. It's just like you in a field, chilling, being his cute old little self with some nice natural lighting, but we've blown out the sky. But for this case of the tutorial, I'm not focusing on fixing the sky, I'm just focusing on a few little edits. So I'm going to take this image, going to go into my presets, because all good edits start there with some polka dot presets. You know the drill. So going to Autumn 2020, I've got a new one called Golden. I'm going to probably rename these before I launch them because these are some very uncreative names. Just going to drop the exposure a touch. Oh, I kind of like it dark actually. I didn't edit it that dark the first time. I edited it a touch like that. I think that's nice. That's a nice happy medium. So that's pretty much it for Lightroom. For Lightroom, I just kind of do the basics. As you can see, this picture is actually quite grainy, but it doesn't matter. It's only Instagram. I'm not blowing it up and printing it out to go on the side of a billboard or anything, so it doesn't really matter. He's got a little pimple on his chin there. We'll fix that in Photoshop. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Took the raw image, whacked my preset on, jobs are good in, file, export. Then we're just going to save it to this location where I'm going to have it, drag it in, and then put it in Photoshop. So we'll just let it export. So once it's saved, we're going to go into Photoshop. I'm going to go File, New Project. I'm going to go for this one, which is one that I've saved. But if you're going to make a new canvas, then you're going to want to make it with these settings. We're going to go 1080 by 1350 pixels, orientation portrait, resolution 100 pixels per inch, RGB color, 8-bit, white background, color profile, pixel aspect ratio, blah, blah, blah. Just keep a note of those. And then we're going to just create the canvas. Then we're going to go File, Place Embedded. And then we're just going to find that image that I rendered. Here you can see the 2 other times I've edited this photo. So we're going to find the original, which is one of these somewhere. I think they're both the same. Gonna add it in. Takes a little while because I'm running Photoshop, Lightroom, and the screen capture software, so I'll probably speed this up. So I'm just going to kind of drag it out. Tap enter. Again, it's a little bit slow. So once we've got it placed in, we'll just think of a nice kind of placement for it. I quite like that. Maybe we could get a bit less of a sky. Maybe like that. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate the layer now. I'm going to do something I didn't do in the other edits. I'm going to try and pull some of the sky back. So I'm going to drag it on top, and I'm just going to cut it like so. I'm going to go on my blending options. Blend it to darken, I think works pretty nice. So we've actually saved the sky a little bit there. Just kind of ignore that because that's not really important. That's not really the key part of what we're doing here. But you have just seen how I've done it. I took a section from the top, dropped it down, set it as a darken blending mode, and now I've merged those layers together. So you can kind of just ignore that, and we'll start and pretend I didn't do that, and this is the original image, but there you go. So we'll take this image now, and now we're going to duplicate the layer. This is the bit that you want to follow if you want to make the edits kind of like the way I edit. So now we've got that layer, we're going to go Select, Subject. Photoshop does a really good job of actually knowing what you want it to select. This is going to be quite difficult for it because there's all these bits of grass and stuff, but generally it does a really good job. Then we're going to go Select and Mask. Now it's found the subject. We're just going to fine tune the selection, especially for long-haired dogs. You're going to have to spend a little bit more time than I will because Lookie's got a short coat. It makes life easy. We're going to go on the Refine Edge brush tool, and we're just going to pick out his little whiskers here and bring them back into the selection because it hasn't quite picked them up, and we want them, you don't want to chop his little whiskies off because they'll look a bit strange. So we're just going to go over that gently and bring those details back. We're also going to go up here into the quick selection tool, and we're going to just, if we want minus, take away from the selection in the middle bit here, like that. That's pretty good. And there's also a bit on his tail we want to add to the selection. Like that. I think that for the majority is pretty okay. It doesn't matter about his legs because what we're doing isn't going to affect his legs. It's mostly going to go behind his head. I think I can just add the highlight parts of his ear in. Sometimes with like golden hour photos, Photoshop doesn't quite pick up the edge highlights, especially when everything's as soft as it is in this picture. It would have worked perfectly fine without doing this, but if you want it to be perfect, then you can spend more time fine-tuning the selection. If yours doesn't look like this when you open it, then you want to make sure everything on this side is the same. So you want your view to be overlay, so you can see it. You want your color to be red, it'll probably be red automatically. Opacity 50%, high quality preview on. Nothing else at the bottom really makes a difference, but you want to make sure the output is to layer mask and nothing else. Then you want to hit OK. You can also put remember settings because you'll probably be using them a lot. Hit OK. And now it will clip, create a layer mask. If you turn off the bottom layer, you can see that it's clipped him and cut him out, which is sort of what we want, but sort of not what we want. So just kind of ignore that and keep that layer on for now. We're now going to go and make a gradient. We want a radial gradient. And we want it to be a little bit bright. I'm just going to double click there. I want it to be a little bit lighter than what it is at the moment. Something like that perhaps, and then make this one a little brighter as well. Like about there. And then we're going to hit OK. Then we're going to drag this layer mask from here and drop it onto the gradient fill. As you can see, it's now clipped the gradient to the inside of Loki, which is not what we want. We want it clipped to everything but Loki. So we're just going to click on this and then press Control and I to invert the selection. Now you can see it's around him but isn't in him. So now you're going to double click this section here, and then that allows you to drag and move your gradient around. So we're just going to go place it about there. That looks quite nice. Something like that looks nice and soft. You have to make sure you double click it to drag it though, otherwise you move the mask instead and it all gets a bit messy. So I quite like that. I'm going to duplicate that layer and I'm going to move the duplicate version onto the other side. Kind of like there, I think. That looks quite nice. And I'm just going to drop the opacity to about 50% for that side. Maybe about 60% for that side, just so it softens it a bit. But it is making a difference, as you can see. It is softening that background. Just for the purposes of being tidy, I'm going to make a new folder and drag these new elements in there, just so I can turn them on and off so you can see the before and after easier. It doesn't really matter for you unless you like to be tidy in your workspace. Generally, I am very messy and I end up losing all my layers. It's that time of day where all my notifications come through for people I don't even know anymore, like back from college. Anyway, so now we've got that element done. What I want to do is to go and look at his beautiful eyeballs and see where they are at. Oh, not that close. So I'm just going to zoom in there. And then on this layer, because we're kind of ignoring this one, this one's our background layer, so this is the main one you're doing your edits on for now. So on this layer, we're going to go get the dodge tool and we're going to just dodge the mid-tones. I've got about an exposure of about 17 on here just to make those highlights pop, which I like. And then I'm just going to make a selection with my lasso tool. You can hold down to change the tools, but I'm just going for the lasso. It means I can just wing it and draw it with my finger. So I'm just drawing around like a Zorro mask around his eyes, and then we're going to go select, and we're going to go filter, sharpen, smart sharpen, and then we're just gonna, I've got it about 48%, radius of about that. You know, you'll kind of know where you want it. You don't want it like that. You want it somewhere like low, so it sharpens it a bit, but not overly. So that's his eyes sharpened nicely, and they're a little bit brighter. They stand out just a little bit more, and I really like that kind of, I don't like over editing. Some people will go into their dog's eyes and they'll like take the dodge tool and they'll just be like dodging all this until it's like really bright and colorful, but then I always find like it looks just really creepy. Like I just don't like it personally. I like to keep them dark. Like he's got dark-ish brown eyes, so I like to keep that way. The only time you'd want to dodge it is if your dog had really, really brown eyes and you were trying to make them just a slightly lighter brown. But in all honesty, I don't like to edit his eyes too much. I like them as they are. So we've just done his eyes, and now we are going to add my favorite part, which is some lighting. So I'm just going to go onto my desktop, into my big overlay package, go on my natural light, and I'm just going to add this one. I think is a really nice one. I just drop that in. Make sure it's above everything else, and then turn your blending mode to screen. This will get rid of the black, so you can only see like the light parts of your overlay, which is nice. And then I kind of like it there, so I'm just going to place that. I'm going to go on my eraser, just tap once, press OK to the message that pops up. Make the size pretty large. Like the bigger it is, the softer it'll be. So I'll make it pretty big and just edit over those edges. I'm also going to erase just where his face is to bring his face details back, as the overlay was kind of on top of them, making him a little orangey. So I quite like that, but you know, when I come to editing, I kind of like to just go nuts. So I like to layer them and get a really nice effect going. So I'm also going to add in, I think maybe this one. It might be a bit strong, but we'll see. Blending mode screen again, and I'm gonna flip it by edit transform, flip horizontal and flip it so it's the same side. I quite like that, so we're gonna add that in as well. Again, eraser, say OK to the message, erase the edges so that's nice and soft, and then just erase a bit where his face is as well. I just erase around the edges as well, just to soften it a little bit. But yeah, overall, I quite like the look of that one. So we'll keep that like that. Make sure that your edges are softer though. You can check here. I have got a hard edge there somewhere, so I'm just going to erase it so I don't see it at all. Even though I can't actually see it right now, but just in case when you come to upload it, sometimes in some of my pictures you'll see like a straight edge because I haven't erased it properly and I'm too lazy to go back and do it. So yeah, I quite like the look of this, how it's looking at the moment. So you can see that was before we made any changes. This is after. It's looking a lot softer, a lot dreamier, which is the look that I like. So to take that a step further, we're going to take this layer. Actually, no, we're going to, duplicate this layer. And we're going to go filter, blur, lens blur. This one can take a while to load, guys, because it's quite a big process. So we're just going to click OK and blur that as it is. That's a nice, decent amount of blur. It looks a bit crazy, but don't worry about it. So I'm going to steal the layer mask from this layer. So I'm just going to duplicate the layer. This is how I do it because I'm lazy, and then I'm just going to hide the layer that I just duplicated, and then I'm going to take the layer mask, drag it and drop it onto the blurry layer we've made. And now I'm going to take my eraser and I'm just going to erase most of what we've just done. I'm going to keep some of the blur at the bottom along here to add to some depth, and then I'm going to keep most of the blur at the top. I'm just going to erase all around Loki because he gets that kind of weird looking halo, and just kind of keep it mostly so it's the top and the bottom that's blurry, just to add a little bit of depth, because that's kind of more the look we're going for. I'm just going to make a selection and click and drag it a bit because it's just slightly off the edge, like that. It just had a bit of an awkward like white gap at the bottom, so I've got rid of that now. Something else I'd like to do back on the normal layer, not the blurry layer, is I'm just going to take out some distracting elements with this tool here, which is a spot healing brush. This is a tool you'll use to take out like eye boogers and leads and stuff like that. I'll do another tutorial on that, or you can just Google it, but for now I'm just going to use it to take off some of these dandelions because they're quite a bright white and they're a little bit distracting. So I'm just going to click and drag on the spot healing brush and just get rid of them. Get rid of the most distracting ones. I think that's pretty much it. That's all that I'm thinking of getting rid of. I'm just going to erase a bit that I've missed on this layer. It's annoying me. There. So now we've done that, I'm just going to do a bit of a selective color. So I'm going to go above everything and then go selective color. Just need to make sure it's above everything. So now we've got our selective color. I'm going to start with the reds. I'll start with the yellows actually. I prefer starting with the yellows. So I'm going to drag the cyans out, make it more warmer, put the yellows up, put a bit of magenta in there to give it a bit of an orangey glow, up the blacks a little bit, and then I do the same for the reds. Play around with the yellows, the magentas, the cyans, just to get it to kind of like a place that I like. So I quite like this, how it looks at the moment. Maybe add a bit more yellow, like that. Get it looking really nice and goldeny. So yeah, pretty much like that. So we'll keep that as that. It's got its own layer mask attached to it. So I'm just going to go with my eraser, select it on the layer mask, and I'm just going to ever so slightly erase some of that selective color off Loki, because you'll see it kind of slightly affects his eyes, and I don't want his eyes to go like a weird color. I'm also going to shrink my eraser brush and just erase slightly off the yellow buttercups, because they've turned into a slightly strange color, and I kind of like them the yellowy color that they were, so I'm just erasing them just to bring that color back. So you can see like they've kept their original color now. They were just ever so slightly a different color. So I think that's pretty much it for this edit. I like how it looks. Just check on this blurry layer that I've erased the edges there. And if you want to go back and revisit your gradients, if you want it to be a little softer, you can up it a bit more. It's totally up to you. I never really have it on 100. I think 100's a bit too dramatic, but I like 70, 60, 50s area is quite nice to keep it looking like soft and dreamy. So yeah, I think we're pretty much done. I'm just going to do an overall filter. I need to be on that base layer. Filter, sharpen, smart sharpen, just overall. This is why you didn't want to go too strongly on the eyes, because you're going to do another overall sharpening filter just before you finish your edit. So that's pretty much it. That keeps all the details nice and sharp. And then when you export, you want to go File, Export, and Save for Web. And that's going to keep all those details nice and crisp. And then you'll just save for web. And then if you're anything like me, you'll save it as like, because that's how I roll. And then that's it. That's pretty much done. I hope you guys enjoyed this edit video. And hopefully I don't have to record it again, because this is the 3rd time I've edited this picture. In fact, just for the sake of, let's see how different they turned out the 3 different times I did them. These are the other 2. That's the one I did just now. So this is one that I've done, and then let me just place the other one in as well. So was it that one, or did I do that one? So I just drag this above, just for a sec, just to see how different they are, even though I edited them relatively the same way. So this is the first one I did for my first tutorial. And this is the second one I did it a bit of a closer crop. And this is the 3rd one I've done. So as you can see, they're all relatively similar. Just got a slightly different orientation. I think this one's my favorite, which is the first one I've done, which is always the way, I think, isn't it? But they're all pretty similar, following the same steps. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you around.